Hey, welcome to the channel. Thanks for stopping by. So we have a new album from Paramore's Hayley Williams, Flowers for Vases, Descansos. It's her second solo album within the past year, and she's got some emotional weight to shed on this one. I love Hayley Williams. I've been a fan since Paramore's Riot, sitting right here. Would you look at that? Swear I didn't set that up. And that album means a hell of a lot to me. We've only had 2 albums from Paramore in the past 10 years, though, with their 2013 self-titled and 2017's After Laughter, both of which I found to be pretty hit and miss, honestly. Like, After Laughter I know got plenty of critical acclaim, but Hard Times is the only song that has kept my interest over the years. You know, I admired them taking things in a new direction with that new wave alt-pop sound, and giving it a little revisit. The songs sound good, but for whatever reason, they just never kept me coming back. And I was decently happy with her first solo album in Petals for Armor. It took me a little bit of time to get used to some of these softer arrangements, but it turned out to be ultimately a pretty well-rounded album, myself really gravitating more towards the poppier cuts like Dead Horse and Over Yet. And if you're going into this new album expecting anything like her last one, you'll likely be disappointed. That's kind of how I felt for my first couple of listens. This is a very stripped back album, and a lot less going on here than on Petals for Armor. Hayley said it's not really a follow-up to Petals. If anything, it's more of a prequel or a detour between parts 1 and 2, seeing as that album was split up into 3 parts. I'm just looking at it as an album on its own, though. I'm not really trying to tie these songs into the story of Petals for Armor. What does need to be noted is that this is the first piece of work that Hayley alone wrote and performed in its entirety, 100% Hayley Williams, no one else, recorded at her home in Nashville, and you can really feel that in the music. It's an intimate album. You feel like you're right there with her as she sings these songs that mostly center around the struggles of moving on from a past relationship. Like, to me, it sounds like she's really having a tough time getting over someone. I know she was with New Found Glory's Chad Gilbert for a long time, like most of her 20s. They were together from 2007 when she was turning 19. They got engaged when she was 25, married when she was 27, and then they announced their separation in 2017 when she was 28. So that was obviously a rough experience, and since then we haven't heard much of anything about her dating life, so I really don't know what her current situation is or who she may have been thinking about when she wrote these songs. The opener, First Thing to Go, has her voicing these fears of losing the memories of her past partner. She says, "The first thing to go is the sound of his voice, and I'm scared to lose what's left of you. I should forget, but I love what's left." Like, she knows she needs to move on, but she just wants to hold on to these memories. It's touching, it's relatable, like you have a partner that's a fixture in your life, and then suddenly they're not anymore, and you start to forget certain things about them. It's tough. The following, My Limb, seems to compare the loss of her partner to losing a limb. It's pretty much the most immediate hook of the album, with its repetitive chorus of my limb, my limb, my limb, my limb. It's one of the 3 songs on the album that actually brings in a drum beat. Cool to hear Hayley do some drumming. And it's got a dark mood to it that I'm pretty into, though this whole album does tend to be pretty dark in general. Asystole, the term for when the heart flatlines, it's like she's saying that without this love, all she has is the sound of asystole. It's a beautiful and sad song, showing off the core sounds of the album with gentle acoustic guitar and some soft piano. The song Trigger stands out to me a bit with its pretty memorable chorus. "I've got the trigger, but you hold the gun. How come you never put the safety on?" The song sounds like a reflection on the problems within the past relationship. And then Over the Hills, it's another one that brings in the drum beat here and there for a little more oomph to grab onto, which I always enjoy. It's a sweet song that has her asking, when you wake up, ever wish I was beside you? You know, it's like she's imagining what things could be like if they did stay together. I really like her delivery on Good Grief, with the main line of "there's no such thing as good grief," and it's one of the only songs on this album that gives me the urge to actually sing along to the beautifully melancholic chorus. It's just her reflecting on the pain of coming out of a relationship, haven't eaten in 3 weeks, skin and bone when you're not near me, Took 2 months to pack up your things, but I left a box at your parents' house. Don't know whether to feel sad or proud. I'd say this song is about as good as it gets in really expressing her pain. But then we get a couple of the more underwhelming tracks, in my opinion. I find Wait On to be a pretty song for sure. There's not a thing on this album that I can't admire. I think Hayley sounds absolutely lovely. But this one I do find turns into a bit of a sleeper, even up against all these other slow songs. I find this one just doesn't catch my attention all that much. And then KYRH, Keep You Right Here. It's kind of the transition track between the two halves of the album. A piano strong song with a heavy heart, and it's one verse that she sings twice, and it just kind of follows one note, and the emotional strength doesn't really come through for me. But Inordinary, this is a favorite for sure. She reflects on different points in her life, and I find it a pretty easy story to follow. I find the chorus quite beautiful. The first time it comes around, she's reflecting on her teenage years, starting up the band, and appreciating how she wasn't living an ordinary lifestyle. And then the second go through, she's reflecting on her time with her mom when they moved to Tennessee when she was in 7th grade, and she wishes that feeling stuck around. She says there's a beauty to be found in the ordinary. And then HYD, How You're Doing, gives you the one little humorous moment of the album as she starts it off with a raw recording of herself playing the song as a plane seems to fly overhead. It makes for a nice little chuckle. The song itself, though, continues the heavy-hearted mood of the album, and I'd even say it's about as bleak as things get. It seems like she's really struggling with these memories of her relationship, and she does a good job at conveying that feeling of wondering what your ex is doing now. And then we get the 3 shortest songs in a row. No Use I Just Do sets up a pretty dismal mood with the slow, somber piano and some kind of ambient guitar tones. She says, "It's no use, I just love you." It's like she's settled with the fact that she can't get over this person, and she sounds pretty defeated. She harmonizes a couple layers of her vocals on Find Me Here for a very pleasant sound. She said this song is about surrendering your loved ones to their own personal struggles, letting them take their time to come to their own rescue. It's fine and all, but it's one that just kind of slides by me. And then Descansos, the instrumental piece. Descansos are the memorials set up at the site of a sudden death, like you see on the roadside where someone crashed. And when you listen to it with that in mind, I feel like the song can definitely take on a pretty tragic form. But you also get some sounds from a toddler in the early parts of the song, which to me hints at new life rather than the loss of it. I don't know, I feel like this is a piece that will mean different things to different people, like any song really, I guess. But I feel like this one is a nice, short, instrumental representation of the overall tone of the album. And finally, the closer, Just a Lover. It's the 3rd song, as I mentioned, that brings some drums into it, and it turns things up, the loudest this album gets for its final stretch, which I think is a good send-off. It does end rather suddenly, though. Hayley's been open about struggling with depression in the past, and this seems to touch on that a bit. The first verse, looking back on simpler times as a kid, and the final stretch of the song mentioning how she struggles to get out of bed, thoughts of maybe never singing for anyone ever again. And she finishes the album with the lines, "I know exactly what this is," or whatever it was. I don't know what this is, but it sure does end the album on a bit of a dark, or at least an uncertain note. Alright, I'll wrap this up. I think this is an admirable showing from Hayley. She lets us into her world, and she's displaying a lot of pain, which is tough to hear. I think her performance on each song is lovely, and it's cool to hear that she's behind all the instrumentation as well, but I do find these songs fall short of really driving the emotion into me. You know, as heartfelt of a songwriter she is, and as moody as the performance and the song structures are, there's really nothing on here that actually manages to rip into my gut. I look at an artist like Phoebe Bridgers with her last album, and the feelings she delivered on that were breathtaking, whereas the stuff on this is far from breathtaking in my opinion. But I guess that's just what this album is. It's just Hayley, some guitar, some piano for the most part, and it's a very lyrically focused album, which is why I spent the chunk of this review focusing on the meaning behind the songs rather than the structure of the songs like I tend to focus on with the music I listen to. So I do appreciate what she's given us here. I just wish there was a little more I could grab onto in these songs to actually make me want to keep coming back. Unfortunately, I can see this album fading away pretty quickly for me. I've rated each song, I've crunched the numbers, and I've settled on a final score of 6.3. And that is gonna wrap it up. Thank you for checking out the video. I'd love a thumbs up if you liked what you saw. Hit the subscribe to stay on top of more alternative content, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to chat. I'll see you next time.